Let me ask you something that'll shake you to your core. Have you ever stood face to face with someone you love and felt like you were invisible? Have you ever poured your soul into a connection and the only thing you got back was silence? Or worse, distance? Now here's the truth bomb. Avoidants rarely say I love you. But if you slow down, if you really pay attention, you'll realize they're screaming it in the language of their wounds, in the subtle chaos of their anxious habits, in the tension between their fear and their need. Today, I'm not here to give you fluff. I'm here to help you decode what most people miss. Because when an avoidant shows you love, it rarely looks like romance. It looks like contradiction. It looks like confusion, but it's there. Oh, it's definitely there. Let's dive in. When an avoidant pulls away just when things start to feel emotionally intense, it often sends a shocking message to the other person, one that says, I don't care. But here's what most people don't understand. This retreat isn't rejection. It's not disinterest. It's fear in its rawest, most disguised form. The moment intimacy grows deeper and more real, the avoidant partner's internal alarm bells begin to ring. You see, for someone with an avoidant attachment style, closeness equals danger. It's not that they don't want love, they do, but love to them has historically been unsafe, overwhelming, or filled with hidden conditions, so when they begin to feel something powerful, their nervous system kicks into defense mode. It says, get out while you still can. This pulling away is a survival strategy. Think about that. It's not a conscious decision to hurt the other person. It's an unconscious decision to protect themselves. Their body reacts before their mind catches up. The closer they feel to someone, the more vulnerable they become, and vulnerability for them is like walking a tightrope with no safety net. Their instincts don't say, lean in and connect. Their instincts scream, retreat, lock the doors, stay safe. So what you may see as abandonment is actually a moment of crisis. Internally, they're torn between two deeply conflicting desires, the longing for connection and the terror of being consumed by it. This is where confusion happens for their partner. Because just yesterday, the avoidant may have shown affection, shared something personal, or opened up more than usual. And today, they're distant, cold, unresponsive. It feels like emotional whiplash, but in reality, what's happening is an emotional hangover. After opening up, even just a little, they spiral into self-protection mode. Their mind starts questioning everything. Did I share too much? Did I expose myself? Will I be judged? What if they now expect more from me than I can give? It's not about you. It's about their deeply wired belief that closeness leads to pain, obligation, or emotional suffocation. And so they do what they've always done, pull back, not because they're done with you, not because they stopped caring, but because they're overwhelmed by how much they care. Their way of saying, I love you, isn't smooth or predictable. It's clumsy, conflicted, and full of pauses, but behind the retreat is often a depth of emotion they don't yet know how to hold, and that's what makes this behavior so tragically misunderstood. Avoidants are often labeled as cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable, but this perception is misleading. What many people interpret as coldness is, in truth, emotional overwhelm hiding behind a wall of silence and self-control. An avoidant individual may seem detached on the surface, but beneath that calm, unreadable exterior is a storm of unspoken emotions, fears, and unresolved past experiences. Their emotional wiring tells them that expressing too much, feeling too much, or needing too much is dangerous. It threatens their sense of autonomy. It activates old wounds. So instead of letting that vulnerability leak out, they retreat into silence or emotional shutdown, often at the exact moment they feel something powerful. This isn't because they don't feel. On the contrary, they often feel too much. But they don't know what to do with those feelings. They were never taught how to process or express them safely. So their system developed a defense: suppress, detach, compartmentalize. When an emotional moment arises, whether it's a conflict, a romantic gesture, or an act of deep connection, the avoidance system floods with discomfort. They might freeze, they might become vague, they might shift the topic or withdraw completely. To the outside observer, it looks like disinterest or emotional detachment. But inside, it's a silent battle to maintain emotional control in a moment that feels like too much. Many avoidants have learned to associate closeness with emotional chaos. Maybe they grew up in environments where expressing feelings led to rejection, ridicule, or punishment. So now, even in adulthood, when love is healthy and safe, they still feel the need to brace for impact. When someone gets too close, their first instinct isn't to lean in, it's to armor up. The coldness is not a lack of emotion. It's a shield against being flooded by feelings they fear they cannot regulate. And here's the kicker. While they're pulling away to self-protect, they often feel guilt, confusion, and longing. They don't want to push you away, but they also don't know how to stay fully present without losing control. So they opt for emotional numbing, for the quiet withdrawal that buys them time to feel safe again. This leaves their partner confused, hurt, and often questioning the relationship, unaware that what they're witnessing is not rejection, it's emotional overwhelm masked as indifference. Avoidants are not empty of love. They are full of it, but their capacity to handle that intensity is often blocked by old survival mechanisms. Avoidants are constantly navigating an invisible battlefield inside their own minds, one where love feels like both a gift and a threat. Because of this, they often engage in subtle behaviors that seem confusing or even hurtful to their partner, but are actually desperate attempts to measure safety. These behaviors can look like passive-aggressive remarks, pulling back after moments of intimacy, or even manufacturing distance just to see how you'll react. It's not because they enjoy conflict or manipulation. In fact, most avoidants would rather avoid conflict entirely, but at a deeper level, they are testing something crucial. Can I trust you with my vulnerability? Will you abandon me if I show you the parts of me I've learned to hide? This kind of testing doesn't come from malice, it comes from survival. Avoidants have often grown up in environments where emotional closeness led to disappointment, pressure, or emotional injury. Their nervous system remembers that pain. So even when they begin to trust someone, a part of them remains suspicious. They're waiting for the moment when the other shoe drops. They're watching closely for signs of danger, betrayal, or suffocation. So they test, not out of cruelty, but out of fear. They might say something that pushes a boundary just to see if you'll stay calm or explode. They might go silent during a moment when you need them to see if you'll shame them or reach out with patience. Every reaction you give is being filed away in their mind as data. Is this person safe, or will this end like it always has? For their partner, these moments can be incredibly painful. It can feel like emotional sabotage, like they're setting traps instead of building trust. But what's really happening is that the avoidant is trying to confirm a single thing. Am I emotionally safe here, or am I walking into another version of the pain I've always known? These tests are unconscious. They're rarely planned or calculated. But they are deeply ingrained habits that have kept them safe in the past. The tragedy is that these tests often produce the exact fear they were trying to avoid. They act in ways that push their partner away, then interpret the partner's reaction as confirmation that people always leave. Understanding this doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it helps us see the truth underneath. Avoidants test not because they don't love, but because they are terrified of what that love might cost them. They are asking questions they don't know how to say out loud. Will you still love me if I disappoint you? Can I mess up and not be left behind? Can I let my guard down and still be enough? Avoidants often get labeled as inconsistent or emotionally unreliable, especially in romantic relationships. Their inability to show up in the ways people expect, through regular communication, verbal affirmations, or affectionate gestures, can be deeply frustrating for their partners. But what many don't realize is that avoidants do show up. They just do it in ways that are subtle, quiet, and often misunderstood. Their love language isn't loud or obvious. It's hidden in behaviors that require deeper observation to truly appreciate. And once you learn how to spot these signs, you start to see the devotion that lives beneath their silence. An avoidant might not text you good morning every day, but they'll remember the exact kind of tea you like and buy it without saying a word. They may not plan elaborate dates, but they'll fix something in your home, help you with a stressful task, or quietly handle things they know would overwhelm you. These gestures are their way of saying, I care, I see you, I'm here. It's a more practical, action-based expression of love, rooted in a desire to provide value without becoming emotionally exposed. Consistency is hard for avoidants not because they don't want to be close, but because closeness triggers a part of them that fears being engulfed or losing control. This fear makes them hesitant, sometimes unpredictable. One day they may seem engaged and emotionally available, and the next distant and withdrawn, but this isn't evidence of a lack of affection. It's their system trying to regulate a deep emotional conflict. They crave connection, but too much intimacy too quickly feels like a threat, so they dip in and out, testing the emotional waters and retreating when they feel overwhelmed. For someone in a relationship with an avoidant, it can feel like they're constantly trying to decipher a code. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice a pattern in their behavior. They show up when it counts, maybe not with flowers and poetry, but with acts of service, protective instincts, and small, meaningful efforts that speak volumes, if you're willing to listen beyond the surface. This kind of love doesn't come wrapped in romance. It's quiet, careful, and sometimes clumsy, but it's there, it's real. And more than anything, it's often being given in the only way they know how, with caution, care, and a hope that maybe, just maybe, you'll understand what they're trying to say without saying it. When conflict arises in a relationship with an avoidant partner, it often leaves their counterpart feeling bewildered, abandoned, or emotionally stranded. This is especially true because avoidants tend to respond to emotional intensity with silence. Their withdrawal in the aftermath of an argument or emotional moment isn't always a punishment or a tactic. It's a processing phase. To the person on the other side, this silence can feel deafening, like the relationship is collapsing. But for the avoidant, this is a necessary retreat into emotional safety, a way to regain their balance before re-engaging. Avoidants typically grew up in environments where emotional expression was not modeled in healthy ways. Conflict may have been dangerous, loud, or shame-inducing, or perhaps they were taught that emotions make you weak, or that expressing pain leads to rejection. Because of this, they internalize a belief system where emotional regulation means shutting everything down. When an argument happens, their system is quickly flooded with feelings: anger, fear, sadness, confusion, but they don't know how to process all of that in real time, especially when another person is directly involved. So they hit pause, they go quiet, not because they don't care, but because they don't trust themselves to respond without losing control or worse, causing more damage. This silence isn't necessarily a sign that the relationship is doomed. It's more like an emotional timeout. They're gathering themselves, trying to make sense of what happened, running every word, gesture, and moment through the lens of their inner critic. Did I say too much? Did they mean what I think they meant? Am I safe to go back and speak again? These aren't conscious questions most of the time. It's a swirling cloud of emotional static that they can only clear by stepping away. But the unfortunate reality is that their partner is often left in the dark. When someone is anxious or emotionally expressive, they want connection during conflict. They want to talk it through, to resolve, to fix, and the avoidant silence feels like rejection or emotional cruelty. What's really happening, though, is a misalignment in coping strategies. One partner leans in, the other leans out. If you've ever been on the receiving end of that silence, it's easy to believe you've done something wrong or that they've stopped caring. But very often, the truth is more complex. They care so deeply that they can't risk saying something they'll regret, or exposing a part of themselves they don't yet know how to explain. They're trying to get calm before they come back, and in their own way, they're hoping the connection will still be there when they do. Love, for the avoidant, is not a spark that bursts into flames overnight. It's a slow burn, a gradual, cautious unfolding that happens only when they feel truly safe. Unlike others who may express affection early and openly, avoidants guard their hearts like sacred ground. They don't let people in easily, and when they do, it's a process filled with internal battles, conflicting emotions, and protective instincts. But once they decide, once they truly feel that a person is emotionally safe and won't try to control, suffocate, or abandon them, something incredible happens. Their love, though subtle, becomes fiercely loyal and deeply rooted. At first, their commitment may not look like what we're used to seeing. They may not be effusive or verbally expressive. You won't always hear "I love you" or receive romantic surprises, but you'll begin to notice a shift. They start including you in their long-term plans. They open up more, piece by piece. They may begin to share memories they've never told anyone before, or express fears they usually keep buried. These moments are huge. For an avoidant, this kind of vulnerability is a sign that you're not just someone they care about. You're someone they've chosen to trust, and that trust is not given lightly. It's built over time through consistency, respect, and emotional patience. When they feel safe enough to stop running, they begin to anchor themselves in the relationship. They start showing up, not just physically, but emotionally. They begin to offer support during your hard days, not out of obligation, but from a place of genuine investment. They start resisting their old reflexes to retreat, choosing instead to lean in when things get challenging. That's how you know the slow burn has turned into something powerful. What makes this loyalty so profound is that it has been chosen against the odds. Avoidants have had to fight their own instincts to get to this point. They've had to dismantle emotional walls that took years to build. So when they commit, truly commit, it means they see you as someone worth risking their old defenses for. They may not broadcast their love to the world, but in their own quiet, determined way, they love with a depth that goes far beyond surface-level affection. Once an avoidant chooses you from a place of security, they're not just in it halfway. They're all in, even if they still struggle to say it out loud. What we often fail to see in avoidant partners is the profound complexity behind their silence, their withdrawal, and their unpredictable responses to closeness. We misread their behaviors through the lens of our own emotional language. When they don't say "I love you," we assume the feeling isn't there, but the truth is far more intricate. They are loving you with every protective instinct they have. They are battling the ghosts of their past, their fear of vulnerability, and their deeply ingrained beliefs about intimacy, all while trying to maintain connection. Their version of love may not be polished or traditional, but it is raw, cautious, and surprisingly deep. This entire speech has been about decoding that hidden language, recognizing the signs that scream "I love you," even when the words are absent. From their sudden withdrawal when things get real, to the moments of silence that are actually emotional processing, avoidants are constantly navigating a tightrope between desire and fear. They may test you, not to play games, but to protect themselves. They may show love through service and small gestures instead of grand declarations, and once they feel safe, once they believe they won't lose themselves in the relationship, they offer something rare, a fiercely loyal, deeply rooted commitment that took them immense courage to give. Understanding an avoidant's way of expressing love doesn't mean tolerating neglect or emotional shutdowns forever. It means learning to see their behaviors through a different lens, especially in the early and uncertain phases of connection. It means choosing empathy over assumption. The more we understand that their distancing is not about the absence of love, but about their fear of losing control, the more empowered we become to engage with them from a place of grounded compassion. And if you are an avoidant yourself, this is your invitation to recognize your own patterns, not with shame, but with awareness, so you can begin to love in a way that feels safe for both you and the person beside you. Because in the end, this is not just about avoidance. This is about all of us, learning to see love not only through words and traditional gestures, but through courage, effort, and transformation. Love isn't always poetic. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's quiet, but it's there. It's always there, tucked inside the pauses, the tension, the hesitations. When we begin to recognize love in its many forms, we expand our capacity to connect, and we give ourselves a better shot at the kind of relationship that doesn't just survive the storms, but grows stronger through them. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep and emotional journey today. If this message resonated with you, know that you are not alone, and neither are the people you love who struggle to express their emotions the way you expect. Healing starts with understanding, and understanding starts with compassion. Every time you choose patience over judgment, you create space for growth, for connection, and for a love that's more authentic and lasting. If you found value in this message, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps more people discover the truth behind avoidant behavior and find clarity in their relationships. And remember, transformation takes time, but every insight brings you one step closer to the love you truly deserve. Until next time, stay kind to yourself, stay curious about others, and never stop growing. Thank you, and goodbye for now. Take care.